Hey, 𝗟𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃 here. I am walking us through the Nancy Code journey from January 1st till December 31st to get to $1 million, following the process I've been teaching for the last 6+ years after I finished up 20-year stint doing 2 different government contracting businesses. I'm going to go pretty fast. If you followed my last video, you know that I'm going to do a handful of videos. I think I had like 11 videos, all of them today on the 1st of February as I'm catching up, which is totally fine, which is why I wear the exact same shirt in all these different videos. So today I want to quickly just jump in and talk about 2 things as we move forward. The first thing that I want to talk about are numbers. So UEI, DUNS number, if you ever hear of these. So I want to talk about that. And then the second thing I want to talk about is dive in and start doing a little prep work for myself on SAM. So remember, these are not teaching videos. These are journey videos. I want you to come along on the journey with me, but I can show you how I'm looking at certain stuff and in deciding what to do next. Do I have everything I need to be able to move to the next step? And so I want to register in SAM. Today, I'm going to go through, or in this video, I'm going to show you how I go through that process. Okay, so let me just talk to you about numbers really quick. There are a bunch of different numbers you might hear in government contracting, NAICS code and PSCs. Those are really simple numbers that just define what you sell. It's not rocket science. You just got to figure them out and find them. I've done videos earlier in this journey, so on day 3 or 4, something where I talk about those. Those are numbers that identify what you sell. Then there are numbers that identify you and your company. And so I want to kind of back up there. The main number that first term I want you to know is something called a TIN, a tax identification number. So a tax identification number is something you get from the IRS. As an individual, I have a social security number, right? 555-55-5555, right? That's my social security number. That's a really sensitive number. I don't give it to anybody. The only thing I ever share is the last 4. So that social security number is a tax identification number, a TIN. Now I'm starting a company. And so I've already done this in previous videos here, where I went to the IRS to get my tax identification number for my company. And this is called an EIN, entity identification number. And so an EIN and a SSN are the exact same private number that describes either me or my business, right? So it's basically a social security number, and EIN is basically a social security number for my company. And what I mean by that is don't tell anybody your EIN. I sometimes see people put it out on their website and other places because no one tells you not to do it. Don't do it. That number is secret. And the reason we create the next number, the UEI, the unique entity identification number, and that comes out of SAM, right? So there's tools in the background, but basically SAM gives you login.gov and SAM give you UEI. And the purpose of the UEI, really the main purpose, is to hide your EIN, but give you a unique ID. And so if people get access to your social security number, EIN, it gives them access further into your company, and all they need to do is learn passwords or something. Your UEI masks that number. It also gives you the ability to be seen in all the government tools, and for everybody to go, oh, your number is 555, it must be Neil's company, kind of thing, right? So that one's called the UEI. That's the main number for the entire federal market, especially we're just talking government contracting. That's the main number. And there's one more number after that that's called the CAGE code. And a CAGE code, who knows what it stands for? I know what it stands for, but I keep forgetting all the time because it doesn't matter. It really does not matter. It's called a CAGE code, and it's called the UEI. The fact that we can sit there and say that it's here's what those letters stand for is just nerdy. But anyways, in the government, we have a UEI and then a CAGE code. The CAGE code is issued by DOD. And basically the point is to give another unique number within the Department of Defense for your company. The one unique thing, or one of the unique things about UEI and CAGE code, is that you only have one UEI for your company. That's it. But you can have multiple CAGE codes. For example, when I started, if you don't know this, I've been running the GovCon chamber since 2018. 2017, when I sold my last company, I started a 5th one because I was just going to create another government contracting business before I got into this kind of volunteering world for the last 5-6 years. But I created a company called SV MacPack, and I started it in Duncan, Oklahoma, and in Virginia. I lived in Virginia. My niece was in Oklahoma, where I wanted to be able to bring jobs, frankly. And so I had to open 2 different offices. And when I did, I just requested another CAGE code. Don't go too far into that for here. For Nancy Co, all I need is a UEI and a single CAGE code. So Just giving you a quick intro, social security number for me, a EIN for my company, 𝗟𝗂𝗃, a UEI will mask the EIN for 𝗟𝗂𝗃, and a cage code will be basically a unique number for the Department of Defense and their tools. Okay, so that's a quick intro to those numbers. I'm going to go after getting those, and I thought I'd just share my screen really quick on SAM. So let me do this, and I'll walk you through a little bit of what I'm doing for prep work on this video. And let me just hide that guy. 1 second. And okay, got about 5 minutes in. I want to try to keep this to a 10-minute video if I can. Okay, so brand new 𝗟𝗂𝗃, right? I'm not trying to act like, oh, I have experience and I know things, but I'm trying to walk you through the process that I would go through, or anybody would go through, and you would go through. And the thing is, we don't really go through SAM.gov frequently to register our company or go back in. Once you register, you go back in once or twice a year, basically. But I wanted to show you the process, right? Because SAM is a really good tool. It takes a little bit to learn. Everything takes time to learn, but it's a really good tool. And so right here in the beginning, it says register your entity or get a unique ID, right? And I want to actually do both. So I'm going to click on Get Started. I'm not teaching you SAM. I'm just walking you through the process. The one thing I really want to point out here, though, is if I come down here, it gives me some guidance, and it's going to talk about the registration, setting up SAM, preparing my data, and getting started, which is awesome. You can read this stuff later. I already kind of read it and reminded me, but let me see if it's here or on the next page. Where did I see this one? It must be the next one. So let me come back really quick. I just read these little bullets and coming across, and all of them basically have the same thing on each one of the pages. Look at the entity registration, which is perfect. So for 𝗟𝗂𝗃, I'm coming back and just reminding myself of what I think I remember about SAM, and looking in here, because SAM and the government and the SBA, they often change stuff without really telling people. That's a debatable topic for sure, but I like to go back to the source. I don't like to sit there and operate on my memory. My memory guides me on where I want to go and what I think needs to be done, but I come here and I validate it. Ronald Reagan once said, "Trust but verify." And I like to use that with my memory. Trust but verify. Okay, so here's an entity registration checklist I was going through, and I want to show you one thing that's really important that people sometimes mess up, and you want to track on this for yourself or anybody else you talk to. There's two main ways to register in SAM. You can register and say, I want to go after all awards, which is what you want to do. It allows you to bid on contracts and other stuff and blah, blah, blah. Or sometimes people say, financial assistance awards only, or a couple other, you'll see me do a couple of others. The thing is, when you register in SAM as a government contractor, all awards, and I'll walk you through this process as we go forward. And as I come down, let me just scroll this way, I can see there's certain information I need, right? So for financial assistance, they're just going to ask for some basic stuff. But for all awards, I'm going to dive in farther. Long story out, when I sit there and try to do business with the government, especially as a prime contractor, it's going to come back and ask me for these things called reps and certs. And they generally happen right here. So they happen within this effort of registering in SAM. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just look in here and go, all right, this is what it's going to ask me, blah, blah, blah. But I really need to, whoa, what's happening? How can I undo what I just did? Can I undo? Well, I got a mess there, but I can't undo. But I wanted that highlight because I was going to use it down lower as I'm showing you. So here, if I'm coming down, the first thing I'm seeing is, in order for me to get a UEI, a unique entity ID, then I need to have these things ready. And so this is my checklist. I'm doing it with you just to remind myself, do I have all this stuff? Legal business name, I'm good to go. Physical address, this is an iffy. At the moment, I think I'm good to go. I have a virtual physical address, so we'll see if that works. And if you watched all the videos from the beginning, you know how I got it and where I got it from. So I'm going to test that process out. That kind of thing might not work for a HubZone certification, but for general SAM registration should be fine. HubZone means I have to be operating there, but physical address, really, who cares? It's a virtual world. Date of incorporation I have, and I incorporated in Delaware, so I'm good to go. Right here, I put red because it's non-US entity, so I don't even care. I'm going to keep going. Then it's saying core data I need, so I know what my organization date was. Date on which my fiscal year ends. Basically, all of us are 12/31 unless we want to be unique. The organization website, I got the 𝗟𝗋𝗀. I think I got 𝗟𝗋𝗀𝗂𝗚𝗏.ai or something. I have to go back and remind myself what it is, but I got it. I'm going to do this MPIN. I'll probably try to hide it from you since that's a really unique password number. I've got my physical address, like I said, but here it doesn't matter because they're pulling it. And this is what I'm hoping I can do. They're pulling it from the IRS. So we'll see how that happens. My mailing address, I'm just going to make it the same. And my TIN is the EIN that I talked about earlier. So then this next one, IRS consent. This is just a bunch of check boxes I'm going to be doing. Cage codes is probably where you'll see me go through it. I'll fill as much as I can in SAM, and then I'll hit this pause where it goes off to DLA, and it could take 3 days to 3 weeks. Who knows? I'll do all sorts of videos in between, but we're on DLA time, so we'll see how that works out. Here, it's a bunch of yes or no questions, but I was able to just quickly read them and go, well, I know I'm not owned by anybody outside. There is no predecessor business. And then I've got all this stuff already. So this is all just a bunch of green stuff for me. They're asking me questions, which is really straightforward. If you're watching this and you already got your company registered, just pay attention to any of these and go, hey, have I updated them lately? But these are all basic statuses for me. They're just yes or no or fill in the blank type questions. This one's vital. I always teach that needs to be yes. So yes, of course you accept credit cards. Independent of everything else, just put yes. So subliminally, it's saying, yes, I'm able to do it. Whether you accept is up to you later. Here, this one, electronic fund transfer, it's optional for others, but basically this is our bank account. I'm pretty sure that's my bank account. Automated clearinghouse is no, but it's stuff. Remit and address, yep, that'll be my, probably just put my physical address for the second because I plan on doing all subcontracting and they won't use this. When I prime, I need to make sure that's really good. So if they write me a check, it comes to my thing. But the reality is the physical address I have, if you don't know this, they forward the mail to me, which is perfect. All right, executive compensation. There's some questions. I'm not going to read them all to you. I was just going through and making sure I was tracking on them. But basically, none of this stuff is really that applicable to me. And I just have to quickly answer the question because it's 𝗟𝗋𝗀𝗀𝗃 is a brand new company. Here it's asking preceding questions about the organization. So like here, it's asking, is your organization responding to federal procurement opportunities contained in the provision of FAR 52.209-7? I don't know. And I've answered that question probably 15 times in my career, but I am definitely not somebody who remembers the FAR just verbatim. I can see I already got an error, so that didn't do me any good. Let me just click on it and see what happens. Well, that's no good. So here, let me take FAR 52. Well, here's a FAR. Let me just click this guy. I don't know what the difference is, but let me try that guy. So open link in a new tab. It's basically saying, are you subject to these things? These are really important places to pause, right? If people talk about government contracting as complex, it's the FAR, but you really don't have to be a FAR expert. You certainly don't need to be when you're not making money. You just need to know the basics of the word FAR or something, or the acronym. But then as you move forward, you can hire people who are FAR experts. It is not smart for a business owner to be a FAR expert. That's what you hire people for. Business owners, in my opinion, need to be salespeople. Anybody can do the FAR, but not anybody can sell what your company does for an agency and to support their mission. All right, so we're saying updates of publicly available information regarding responsible matters. I'm not going to do this with you, but I got to go through and read this stuff and make sure that when I sit there and say something, I'm confirming it, right? That sometimes people do this thing that is incredibly irresponsible, which is they just go in and they go, yes, 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 or whatever the easy answer is. Take 2 seconds to read this. First off, I don't want you to be a FAR expert, but I do want you to be aware of how to pop in and out of the FAR when it suits you, kind of thing, and to get a general idea. So I'll look at this stuff and figure it out. I have to look at several of these FAR entries that are asking the questions. Then it starts asking questions like, within the last 5 years, have anybody done anything? I don't need to do that with you. I'll do it offline and I'll come back and tell you what I did. Entity registration. So here it's just asking some other basic questions. And so here's assertions now. It's asking me what my NAICS codes and PSCs. If you recall, I did all that early on. So I'll just go look at my PowerPoint where I've been writing it down and I'll be able to plug them in really quick. Size metrics, I'm about as tiny as you can be since I just started. I marked this out as red because it's optional, so I don't need to worry about locations. And I'm probably going to come back to you and tell you that my annual receipts I put down as 0. My number of employees I put down as 1. It's totally fine. I'm just getting started. I'm not trying to make people think I'm bigger than I am. Okay, some other stuff. This disaster response, you're going to see me say yes. It's really important that you say yes, and you want disaster response everywhere. It doesn't mean you all of a sudden have to take work that is in Guam that you didn't want. You don't have to take anything, but what you do want is for the government to contact you, or for you to be on their emails if they're like, hey, we got something in Guam. Does it relate to what you do? And you look, you know what? I'll give it a shot. Right? But this one here, make sure you say yes so that you can decide later, situation by situation, that you're not interested in responding. Same thing with the credit card, right? Say yes, and then later I go, yeah, no thanks. See, here's some FAR responses. I'm not going to go through, but these are all the things that are related to your company. 3 FAR responses, 4 FAR responses. Again, I'm not teaching this. So you can, by the way, get this document checklist. I'll put this checklist into the description so you can get it and just make sure you track it on the newest checklist that they have. This is November 2024. I'll probably share it out on LinkedIn or something at some point. Say, hey, go remind yourself. Here it's got architecture and engineering. I can bypass this really fast since that's nothing I do. Here, do you want to bid? Yes, I definitely want to bid. Now I got to answer a bazillion questions. So blah, blah, blah. Financial assistance. No, I'm not interested in that stuff. Mandatory POC. So this is where I start putting in my company's information. Here's my small business profile. This thing here, if it still works basically the way I'm thinking, is when you do it, it sends you forward into probably connect.SBA.gov. And I'll document that process because it changed a while ago, and I want to make sure I'm showing people, 2025's version of registering it. So this concludes the information for all registration. The next page is on financial assistance. Since Nancy Co. is not doing that, I'm not going to be tracking on that kind of information. So let me go ahead and pause there and stop screen sharing. Okay, so what I finished doing today, it's funny, I said I wanted to do this 10 minutes and 17 minutes. Oh, well. But see here, I told you about the numbers like EIN and UEI, and then I told you about going into SAM. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go offline. I'll record the SAM registration, and I'll probably put it up, but I got to black out a fair amount of stuff in there. And I'll do that next, and then I'll come back with whatever the next video is. All right, I'll see you in the next training.